singer to a local boy. And I went to, I said, forget it, went to Central. And that's where I was the rest of my career. Which I said I would never do is stay at the same district, like get retired from there. And there I was, one of those teachers. But it was the best thing I ever did. I was English, but actually my major was history. And they got me into English my second year of teaching, and that's what I did the rest of my career. That was before No Child Left Behind, so they could kind of put you anywhere they wanted to, and that's where I ended up. And then I got into Avid. My 5th year in, I got really sick and I couldn't coach anymore, but I was too hyper to not do something. And I ended up getting Avid, going in the district, and it became a very huge program, but it also was the best thing I ever did.
What's Avid?
So Avid it stands for Advancement via Individual Determination, but you'll never hear anybody really say that. It basically takes kids that are in the middle, because like the lower kids have special ed and all that assistance, and the higher kids have access to AP and usually very involved parents. The key about Avid is having kids in the middle and helping them, teaching them study skills, giving them a base of like a family. The classes become like families. You become like a parent, which I think is what I loved. And then you basically coach them all the way through high school. Life coaches, we go on trips so they can learn how to order in a restaurant. We see all the colleges in the state, kind of help guide them, and then their senior year, you help them with financial aid, college apps, all that kind of stuff. And it was special. It's a special thing, and it's a special thing to be an Avid teacher. It's an awesome experience. And then a lot of them, cracked me up that they didn't know, like, they'd never really been in a hotel. So like, they got their cards and they said, your room's 312. And they came up to me and they're like, hey, what floor are we on? I said, oh, at first I was like, getting ready to say something smart, and then I realized, like, they really don't know. And then like, one girl was getting mad because the waiter kept walking by. And I said, close your menu. She's like, what? I said, close your menu. She closed it, he came right over, and she was like, oh. They didn't know. But those kids now are grown up and having families, and I was telling her that like, they never really go away. They're kind of like fleas, they just stay and they call, but it's awesome to see them become good humans. So anyway, Avid was a great thing. I could talk about Avid forever. So. But that's why and this is why I'm doing this. It's like, I can't be in the classroom because I don't have the stamina really to be somewhere every morning, all day and at night. So I started thinking I'd help teachers.
You said you're in Webster?
Yeah.
How would you feel about hosting this class going forward? Because I don't think we'll be more than 5 or 6 people.
Sure. Like in my classroom? Mm-hmm. Sure, that's fine.
Can you check with your admin, make sure they're expecting us?
Yep.
And that, make sure we'll have all of the stuff we need, plus we'll be in the classroom and everyone's comfortable.
Yeah.
I'll just do my big meetings here.
TV screen and an HDMI cable.
That's about all I need.
Great.
You actually have the HDMI.
That's all I need in the code. But I don't think anybody from CRD is here, and it's closer to where your guys are at. Right? You're close to here though, yeah?
Oh, I walk here.
So you're the only one who's putting down a little bit. I have to try over the rest year, but
10 minutes.
it's not very far. So, but that would help me.
Sure. Yeah, I'll ask tomorrow.
Yeah, and then shoot me an email.
Use less stressful for you.
Right, and then we know that everything's ready, and we know that you're going to be here.
Yeah. So this is the Google code.
It is the Google code. It's just like induction. You have to use your personal Gmail. And I don't know what the Wi-Fi is here.
Oh.
The
Using
phone,
the Chromebooks.
the phone service is pretty.
Probably a couple of home for the kids.
Chromebooks.
That's not bad at all.
connected with the internet via Chromebooks.
Do they give you guys laptops or is it your personal laptop?
This one's my personal. I leave my work laptop at school.
This is the Webster's on Ruth.
Pardon me?
Webster on Ruth.
Yeah.
Okay, so we try to work for that. Okay. That's not, yes, that's not bad at all.
So you're not from here, and you're from California, but not here.
I grew up in Fresno, but when I was like really little. I was born in Oregon. My parents moved to Salinas, and then they moved here.
Oh, wow. And what about you?
Oh yeah, I'm from here.
Where'd you go to high school?
Buchanan.
Oh, you did. I was at Central. Didn't you?
Was Joe Ayala your principal? Maybe
He's like, I don't know.
Joe's probably-
Could not tell you yet.
Where did you go to high school?
Edison.
Oh, you did?
Mm-hmm.
What is it? Edison,
I went.
the good side?
Yeah, I was in the biomed path.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I thought I was gonna.
Be medical.
Yeah.
Wow. What is it? Edison, what is it? They have like a gate.
Mm-hmm.
Edison Computech?
There you go,
That's
thank
the
you.
middle school, so I went there, but then I was at Manchester before that.
Okay. And we won't ask you because you're from Massachusetts and we don't know anything about it.
Foreign to you.
I grew up in Atlanta,
Oh,
yeah. Are we ready?
Yeah, man.
And
Almost.
Oh, sorry.
just at the code. So they have my two-factor authentication. Okay, I'm in now.
So we pretty much talked about all that. Units?
We'll do the units at the end of the course. University of San Diego is a private college. It's about $315. But we'll wait till the end to make sure you guys can, I don't have any control of the money, so I don't want you to pay now, drop the class, try to find a way to get money back from the University of San Diego, because I know how that works. So we'll offer the enrollment at the end of the term.
What's it, there's enrollment for this?
This is for units, but if you want the units, that's optional. It's $300.
It's super affordable.
You know,
It's 4 units for,
$77 a unit
Oh, okay.
for them. And units help you move along the scale on the columns for more money.
and then you guys know there's a sign-in sheet. Do you have the agendas for anything?
I didn't print the agenda.
Okay. That's all right, I think you guys will handle
Yeah,
it. The
the
handouts are actually on the classroom, and they should be there now, but if they're not, they'll be there immediately when class is over. I can change that and get that fixed. But
Before you jump in, I want to know, what parts of your classroom management are you rocking? What's going really well?
crickets.
My kids are attentive and quiet when I'm in the middle of meat and potatoes instruction. Like, they know, like, if we're in math, we're in ELA, we're in, like, in the middle of the subject, they're
That's
very attentive and good. It's more transition times and the less structured times that things.
We have a lot of stuff that'll help you with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like for me, I feel like my transitions are really good. They're really good about knowing where to line up, moving to the next station. Like, I feel like they have that down. For me, it's like, while their voice level is very loud in my class, I don't know how to like help bring them down. I have like visual aids like on my board for them to look at, being like, oh, it's time to whisper, but
Yeah,
that doesn't happen.
they have stuff for you too. You're in a different situation. right?
Yes, I am. So
One at a time, one-on-one, or?
It's one-on-one.
I'm guessing discipline's probably not a big issue.
No, I don't, yeah, but, yeah,
The motivation part that we do,
probably.
and if you ever end up in a regular classroom,
Hopefully so.
yeah, this will be really good stuff.
You guys go home tired at night?
Yeah.
That's
She's
part
all
of-
notes.
part of the stress. And we're going to talk about it in a few minutes, that 5 o'clock reflex.
Especially being first and second year teachers. Like, I always felt like I was repeating myself constantly, you know? Jose, please stop talking. Jose, enough. Jose, and I would be like so tired. And my original was in Sanger, and so I'd have that drive home. I lived in Clovis. And I felt myself decompressing, but then when I got home, all I wanted to do was take a nap. And I knew I needed to decompress, and I thought, man, this must be great for people with families, because they have a whole time, they can decompress. But then I was tired, so I get that. Plus, I wasn't a credentialed teacher at that point. I was a long-term sub in PE. And being the new person, all the guys would bring their kids over and leave. So I had like 3 classes worth of kids, PE classes and all that. So yeah, it was stressful. I know. You got abused. So these are the components. Right now we're going to be working on positive instructional environment. There are different things that will help with that. Then we'll go classroom expectations. That's where we get into how you teach that to your kids. So like for you, the transitions, for you, the rest of it, like the time and looking at it. I think you'll find that's incredibly helpful as well. Increasing student engagement, rigor, how to keep them all engaged, what the keys are to that. There are certain things that can be done so that even the kid that is the first one done and then sits there and gets bored, even the best kid in the world, behavior-wise, if they're bored, they're going to be doing something wrong. Unless they sleep, but you don't want that either. So some ideas for that. Home and work balance, which is, we've come to find that is a tough one for teachers, especially new teachers who are trying to find that balance. Working with special ed, not you being a special ed teacher, but how you deal with the IEPs, how you deal with accommodations, how you deal with the things that come up with kids in special ed, and how to work with those teachers, because part of their role is to reach out to you and collaborate with you. And I think sometimes they don't do a great job, and sometimes we don't do such a great job. So we're going to talk about that. And accountability and motivation is how do you keep them motivated? And then if they don't, what are the ways you can, I guess in a sense we would say discipline, but correct that behavior without sending them out and losing that control. Because the minute you send them out, you've lost control. And so we talk about that. Me?
Classroom layout. What do your classrooms look like? Are they in rows? Are they in groups?
Are they one-on-one?
I have my desk.
It's about the size of this room, but I have it in rows with space in between. Last year I had things more grouped, but COVID keeps coming through, and I've already had it twice since August.
Oh no.
So it's like I need everything a little separated, and I find that cuts down on the chatter too. So I've broken it up to where it's like a college class would be laid out almost, with the desks having space in between.
Oh my gosh, COVID twice already.
I have them in groups of either 4 or 3. Their school has to do this Kagan training.
Oh,
So I'm trying to implement that the best I can. So I have them in groups of 4 and 3, and then I have very muted neutral colors on the walls.
Oh, we're going to talk about that today. We like Kagan. I think a lot of what Kagan does is just smart. And it also is very Avid-like. So when I hear more and more about Kagan, I can relate it to that. It's probably, have you ever heard of it?
Yeah, the kids, my understanding is the kids have less of a structured place where they sit, and they have different areas that can kind of rotate through.
There's different things. I mean, your concern is so real. I mean, some of this stuff at this point you may not be comfortable. Maybe, hopefully at a point you will. So it'd be good to have that knowledge in the back of your head.
I would say Kagan is more about cooperative learning strategies, using data to make your groups, and then giving them specific roles. So it's more than, I mean, one of them is, but it's more than just think, fair, share. They have, there's 135 strategies in the book.
I've been working on quiz trade. They really like that, and in kinder they can do it. So it's where everyone has a card for a certain activity. Like today we did facts and opinions, So they had to identify whether the sentence on the card was a fact or an opinion. And then as soon as they read through and answered they answered the card that their partner had, their partner would kind of coach them through if they got it wrong, or if they got it right, give them like a thumbs up, you did great. And then the partner would then say whether the other student's card was a fact or opinion, and then they trade, and then go find another partner.
Oh, that's cool.
So it really facilitates that conversation that is so valuable with peers.
Well, it comes back to that, it's an old Chinese quote or something that I remember, like 20% of what I read, and then it gets up to 90, or 80 for what I do, and 90 if I teach it myself. And so it comes back to getting them involved versus you standing there talking.
But Webster's the first place I've seen in the county where at least one teacher was using what they call flexible seating. And she got rid of the desks, and she had exercise balls and beanbag chairs.
Oh, we're going to talk about that too.
But I only saw it once, and I think it was 8 or 9 years ago. I don't know if it's still happening.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen a room with no chairs. There is a teacher I know who does Kagan, but she has chairs, and it's in groups like this.
Yeah.
She also has like a couch area and some other stuff, but I'm unfamiliar with it.
So,
Yeah.
so flexible seating isn't really Kagan, it's another way of lowering the affective filter, helping students feel comfortable in the classroom.
We'll watch a video about that too.
But we're of the mind, especially early, well, not in your case, or your case, but seating charts are vital. It sets the tone for who's in charge. Later, it helps us with academics because then now you can sit kids based on the academic data. So if you wanted to have an EO kid with an EO kid with a bilingual kid, so the three of them are working together, now all three of them are borrowing language, but they're also giving access to our EL kid who's only Spanish. And I don't know if you have any of those like that, but that's one example of why I have specific grouping. Kagan is big on looking at high-low, 2 mediums, and a table group. So if there's coaching going on, there's also one kid getting pulled up to the rest of them because of their peers.
It's like natural scaffolding, really,
So,
organic.
you have slides for each of these, though, yeah?
Yeah. So this is interesting. Classroom design can actually help 25% less. It'll cut down 25% less on your discipline issues. Enhances concentration. Think about the kid who, like, I love noise, or I did back then. I sure don't now, but I loved it. I love chaos. I can learn, but how many kids really can do that, you know? And even I would have benefited from a classroom where there was at least structure, not necessarily, you know, drill and kill, but structure. I would have appreciated that. So talk about enhanced concentration. Inspires better results, which is probably natural. Improves behavior and supports learning.
Hold on a second, go back a second. I'm thinking about your room. What kind of a vibe does it give off?
Kind of homey. I mean, at least I think so. You'll see it, you know, but the teacher before me put up this like fake wood paneling linoleum, which I left. It looks not linoleum, but
Yeah.
Like all
not butcher paper either, kind of vinyl,
Yeah.
and it looks like a cabin, you know. And then
That's
aside
cool.
from that, I have I have these. They're all equal size, but one for each subject, and they're color coded for how the kids are supposed to have their notebooks. And it's kind of regimented in that way, so there's like a cabin up front, and aside from that, it looks like this with different colors.
But that's structure. That's linear for the people like me who tend to compartmentalize, right? I mean, that's my stuff right there. That's good.
I know a lot of parents have said that my room looks really calm. It's all like very like muted pastel kind of colors. It still has that kind of like rainbow feel, but it's like all very calm. And then I have like a growth mindset wall. There's a calm corner, which is like a mirror library, and that has pillows and a couple of stuffies there. And then on our like big wall, it's I have like procedures up,
Mm.
and then I have like student work, and then all of our mosaic like name tags that we made at the
Oh,
beginning of
that's
the year
neat.
are up on the wall, and then we have like at the front kind of area, I have like the numbers, the alphabet, shapes, colors, things like that.
Awesome.
I can talk about my student teaching room if that helps.
You what?
I can talk about my student
Yeah,
teaching
do that.
Okay, so in that one, in the front of the classroom, I had all the procedures on top of the wall, what the expectations were, and they kind of also went to the side. There was a huge backpack area on the side too, where they'd hang their stuff up. So they were gonna get something, ask to go get some stuff in their backpack, otherwise it'd be there. Tables for groups of 4,
Mm.
because I like using group points for a lot of control. So if someone's acting up, I just minus the point, walk
Steve,
away.
that's the one you talk about.
I had tons of just student artwork on the walls. I had like one for each student. If they gave me a better one, I'd replace their one I
Oh,
had
that's cool.
there. So that'd be like trying to get cooler and cooler art on the wall. I also had some different art projects over some of the windows, because there were huge windows on the side and it was just blinding light. So we just like try to find a way of somewhat blocking it out.
That's awesome. Do you guys have windows?
Yes.
Yeah.
Does it feel comfortable to you? Does it feel homey? I like
Yeah.
I like that cabin idea of that.
Yeah, I like
I
the,
didn't know it wasn't your idea of
I mean,
that.
so the first thing they said is you can take that down. I'm like, oh, take that down.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
There's-
I like it, and I don't have to put it up.
Exactly.
You know.
There's some studies that say that if you're feeling comfortable in there, you're giving the kids a comfortable feeling when they feel safe physically, they can feel safe emotionally. So that's important to think about what your room looks like and feels like.
one of the strangest rooms I went into that actually worked out really well for the teacher. He never really had his lights actually on. He just had a bunch of Christmas lights hanging from the ceiling and lamps all over. So he never had his lights on, it was just those. And so it had this super chill vibe. He had like this couch area in like the center of the classroom. So if you ever wanted to just sit there and you're like, I need help, and you're just sat on the couch, you walk over, sit down, and be like, what's up?
Yeah.
But I was just like,
Wow.
it's interesting.
A couple of teachers at Torrance High School that have done that, you know, they're just Christmas lights and it's kind of dark in there. I don't know what the fire marshal would say, but.
Yeah.
Sometimes we can persuade the fire marshal, like I did. This is just a really cool graphic. It kind of reiterates what it says. You know, it reduces fidgeting if we do the right things, right? If we have to keep them sitting in a hard chair for very long, not only does it kind of mess their brain chemistry up, but people like me can't sit still. And when I was younger, I'm sure I couldn't either, but you know, I got in trouble for talking because I couldn't sit still, and so therefore I had to focus more. But it increases attention span, it encourages a healthy posture, except for the kid that's rocking in the chair and all that stuff. Color, you were talking about color, plays a huge part. Acoustics, one of the things I talked about was just how difficult and how different the acoustics can change a classroom's vibe, but also its functionality and how well the kids learn. Temperature, think about if your room's warm, pretty much everybody's falling asleep. You know, if it's cold, they're burning calories trying to stay warm, and they're gonna fidget to stay warm, right? Flexible layouts, we're gonna talk about, we call it the interior loop. Light, we just talked about. But this is in classroom, so you don't have to like write all this down. This flyer or handout is, you know, simply creating a more effective classroom can improve students' performance by 25%. We had talked about this already, what your room looks like, different sections. High school, you know, high school and middle school, we don't necessarily have a bunch of areas, but you know, supplies, turn in, and I was not very good about delineating where stuff, they knew where the crafts and stuff was, but I found that I moved my turn-in box all the time, and couldn't understand why they didn't know where it was, and put work in there. So, reading area, I also had a Papa Sun chair at one point. Another year I had a couch, another year I had a chair, and this chair came from a garage sale. It was really cool, you know, and the drug dogs came one day, and they alerted on my chair, and they asked me where I got it. I'm like, a garage sale. And so they said, well, I'm pretty sure there was weed involved, and I'm like, oh my God, I mean, whoever it came from, yeah, obviously smoked around it. That was embarrassing though, because they were questioning me, standing there with the dog. I'm like, it wasn't mine, I had it in the garage. So do you want to talk about the interior room?
So, one of the things we're going to talk about is zones of approximation. So we can manage a lot of the behavior in the classroom, and we're talking about volume, just by walking the room. But it's important that you can walk your room, right? So we were asking about rows. I had one teacher whose desks touched the wall, the back wall. So he couldn't get behind any students, but they were also digging on the wall, cutting the wall, and peeling this room just like this, peeling the wallpaper. Your room, I imagine, you have 25 students?
26.
26, pretty good guess. So you have tables or desks?
I have desks.
Desks, but you have them grouped in 3s and 4s.
Yes.
And you have, I'm guessing, a carpet area.
Yes.
And then you have a library area-ish,
Yeah.
a reading area. Can you walk, because can you walk between the groups of rows in your room?
Sometimes. It depends on whether the kiddos have really pushed their chairs far out or not.
Okay.
But I've been trying to have them, if they want to stand while they do their stuff, they push in their chair and stand on their chair, and that helps.
Interesting. And have you had any COVID problems yet?
I don't think so. I've had a couple of kiddos out sick, but as far as more, not so good.
It's pretty normal for kindergarten. All right. And then you were saying you have rows. Can you walk your room rather
I
quickly?
can walk the aisles easily. The rows are a little more challenging because, again, the chairs, like she mentioned. But up and down aisles, I can walk pretty quickly.
And you're literally putting together because you're trying to stop.
Well, when they do group work, I encourage them to get together, and we have odd desks that they almost belong in a college classroom. They're very modular. There's no cubby or anything. It's just like which is tough for fourth graders. They're almost shaped like a goldfish shape, and then they kick up the little brakes and they push them together.
Yeah.
So when they push those together and then come back, it's not where I originally put it,
Oh, yeah.
which then can mess up the aisles a little depending on. So when they are in group work, they can push their desks together, and then when they go back, that can mess up my ability to walk an aisle.
One thought might be 2 different colors of painter's tape,
Oh, Peter, yeah, that's a good
because
idea.
it doesn't ruin the carpet. And you say, okay, this is what I want when it's blue, this is what I want when it's green. And then they put the desks where you want them.
Ideally, you should be able to weave in and out and not be more than 2 desks away from a child. Because as far as like proximity, which you'll hear that a lot from us, you want to be able to be close enough to a student, right, at pretty much by walking over, you know, so the interior loop, and then you want to make sure that you have access. The other thing too is, if, you know, like Steve, it's easy for him to do something else because I'm not near him, right? I mean, he could be on his phone, he could be doing all kinds of stuff, and I'm not there. So if I can get in between here and I'm walking, you know, 2 seats away, ideally.
So the idea is that there's 3 zones.
Wait.
Green
I
means,
fixed it.
green means teacher's not near me and I can goof off. Yellow is, I'm not quite sure where the teacher is, I might act up, I might not. And red, the teacher's right here, I'm not doing nothing. Okay. And so we can exploit those zones of proximity by walking the room and not having to nag students to get back on task. Because what we found is nagging doesn't work. What we tend to do as new teachers is use the discipline not from when we went to school, but how our parents raised us. So when your dad said take out the trash, what did that mean? For some it means I'm getting up right now second because I don't know what my dad's gonna do when he said to out the trash. For others, it means I can take out the trash anytime between now and Tuesday morning. Right, so it means different things, but what did Dad do when he didn't take out the trash? Did he ask you again, and again, and again, and then finally did he get upset and raise his voice, the coach's voice or whatever? Stephen, if I have to ask you again, I went up right and there's a threat, which maybe or may not follow through on, we take that same discipline into the classroom. So what we're trying to teach you, first of all, is that you have high expectations and you know what the words mean. And your students know what they mean. Told you to get pencils. It doesn't mean wait. It doesn't mean maybe. It doesn't mean go get up. It means get out your pencil. So you have high expectations. The second thing is that we start managing the classroom, particularly when they're doing independent work, by just being near them. Instead of talking with them.
And being unpredictable.
Right?
So if they know you do the same, because we tend to be creatures of habit too, right? So we probably, you'll have a pattern that you like. Be mindful of it and, you know, mix it up. Don't do the same thing all the time. You know, some of your smarter kids, more intelligent kids, or craftier kids are going to know. You know, like I had a teacher, professor in college actually, and there was a test that I panicked and I didn't study well. And I knew my notes were right there, but he was unpredictable for when he was going to get up. And I just was like, screw it, I can't get away with anything. And plus I want to be kicked out of the university, that came into play too. But the fact that we didn't know when he sat at his desk, but he would all of a sudden get up. And we knew there's another person than I that were panicking. So if you're unpredictable, you're going to have better behavior from the kids because they're not going to know.
So I was talking with a high school teacher today, and they were talking about freshmen, which if you've ever been around freshmen, they're notorious for behavior.
Yeah.
Right? And the teacher was complaining about escalating. I keep telling you to do this, I keep telling you to do this, I keep telling you to do this, I keep telling you to do this. And the students now, this is a game. How far can I push this? And I'm going to keep upping the ante in this poker game every time you respond verbally. So my mentor said to the teacher, what are your expectations? Well, they're on the wall. Every time your student starts to argue with you, just point at the expectation. And then she's using fingers. Second time, I have to tell you. Third time, I'm sending you to SOC, which happened literally to be right across the hall. So you can watch the student go to express. And after 2 weeks, pointed to it and it stopped. And the student go back to work.
The only thing I would say to that is you're getting them out of your class, and that's
not happening anymore.
no, not anymore. But that initial, you gave up some control.
You did, but there was 3 opportunities for this student to change behavior before she did something different. And now, all she does is point once at the expectation board, and the student, you can see the body language.
Yeah.
And he gets back to it. What we're saying is this: when a student is misbehaving and we call them out, they don't want to lose face. Even in kindergarten, they don't want to be the one that's being singled out. So if we can give nonverbal cues for students to correct their behavior, most of the kids, they're not delinquents. They want to behave. They just distracted, having a bad day, have a lot of energy. They're boys. Boys worse than girls in the 5th grade, is that right?
4th grade.
4th grade?
Yeah.
Not so much in kindergarten, pretty even, or is it?
My
boys are worse.
Right? And so if we can figure out ways in your situation where we just stand next to a student, a lot of that behavior goes away. We don't have to record it. We don't have to tell mom and dad. We don't have to send them to the office. The student knew they were out of line, but it was corrected in such a way that as soon as they forget that you corrected.
What if they self-correct? It might be you standing over them, but the self-correct is what we want to see.
That's right.
And so, like, We don't like being stood over. Nobody does. Like, if I stood right over you right now, it'd be uncomfortable. You'd be like, why are you doing that? You know? So, I mean, that is so powerful when when it's in regard to managing kids, any age, adults, anyone, is that using that proximity to your advantage, and if you can't get to the kids, you can't use it effectively.
And then you said you were using pictures in your kindergarten class?
Yeah.
How's that work?
So for, well, I have them up for voice level right now, which I've been like really trying to implement, but there's like I have a light next to it, and I click the light on, for whatever voice level I want them to be at. And I have whisper voices, I'm like, okay, scholars, I really want us to have those whisper voices right now. Let's make sure that we remind our neighbors that we need to have a whisper voice, and I'll turn on the whisper voice light. But like that works for like the first, couple minutes, and after that,
So you gotta grab the attention out of those things. The other thought is, if you whisper, they have to be quiet to hear you.
I do that.
I would encourage you to explore those pictures.
Mm-hmm.
This is what lineup looks like. This is what the raising your hand looks like. This is what, part of it is they're still developing language. Part of it is you may have something else available at your site, probably not very
I
many.
have one.
Okay.
I had 2 just test out for the
Oh, nice. But they're still struggling a little bit with language. SPED students, same idea. And so explain those pictures and to show them what they want. This is what we're lining up, and you don't even have to say anything. Right? You're standing there holding the line up there, and in 4 or 5 days they'll know exactly what that means. And by Christmas now you have to use it. Line up. Right? So the picture indexes are really good for you. But the whole point is, I'm not engaging with the student orally and allowing that student to argue back. Because when that happens, I'm actually escalating the student. Not intentionally, but when I start arguing with the student, it escalates.
It just starts going up, and eventually one of you is going to have to win, and it gets ugly when you were student teaching, what grade?
I did practicums in 2nd and 5th, and then I did my student teaching in 6th.
Was there a huge difference between the 2nd and 5th?
The 2nd grade class is honestly my best class, just because they were so uniform, or used to a certain schedule. Those 60 kids, they were awesome.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So do you see, like, could you have seen in a classroom how that would work to be able to access them?
Oh, it was crazy, but like, I mean, one of my favorite things they did is just like, okay, it's work time, and I'm gonna play this jazz music, and if I can't play the music, then we're gonna have a problem.
Oh, right on.
So just play some jazz, kids are like, okay, just doing their writing, we're like, okay, when you're done, you get to go to recess, and then if not, you just stay in here for a little bit longer, and it's like, okay. But,
You're pretty, I can tell you're very chill.
thanks.
Yeah, we'll work on like, most of what we encourage is, when you're dealing with discipline, is to be chill. One of the things I always say is these kids usually, for most of them, they're either getting yelled at home or ignored, right? They're either just get out of my hair because, I don't want to see you or talk to you, I'm tired, or they're being barked at, or they're taking care of their brothers and sisters. I mean, so the majority of our kids, it's not like they have a lot of, there's some, but they're not the kind that come in, their parents have dinner ready, they sit down and do homework together afterwards, before. That's not happening. And so we don't want to do that either, right? And so we have to be cognizant of that. And by being near them, think about the fact that their parents probably aren't near them. So that presence is good and bad for them, and if it's in a nurturing way, even the corrections, that's going to be a benefit because they're not used to that.
That reminds me, one of the best advice I ever got about like correcting kids was like, don't point them out kind of thing. Be like, if we're doing some math, I'd be like, I see something going on, I'll just write a question on the board like, hey guys, do this by yourselves. And then while they're distracted with that, I'll walk over to that kid, and I'll lean down and be like, hey, is everything okay? Like, I see something's going on, but like, it's not no one's like looking at this kid right now, just like
Not being called
being
out.
beside them, being like, do we need to talk about something, or you wanna stand there versus just talking about something, they're like, no, I'm fine, I'm like, okay, this is going on, I don't wanna see this going on right now, but he,
Well, and even just you being there, you probably didn't even have to
not really.
deal with what was happening, right? Because you took that time without calling that child out, and you took that time to be there and have a dialogue and treat them like a person.
And on the chance they're just trying to get attention, I didn't give it to them also, because it's just like,
Right, because the whole attention
they're
would
like,
be.
look at me,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like
yeah.
doing this, and you're like, no, just like, by yourself, what's up?
And all the attention was directed away. That's smart, that's smart. Are you good? So this makes me laugh, only because I was a clutter rat. You know, when you teach, you beg, borrow, and steal. So I slowly had more and more and more and more stuff. And I was the queen of that. Plus, I had done my student teaching as a history teacher. So I kept one of my master teachers was a ditto machine guy. And so I would have so many purple copies of old handouts. And he gave them all to me. And I thought, I can't get rid of them. Like, what if I use them one day? I was teaching English. Like, I wasn't going to use them. And they were copies. So I kept a lot of crap. And thankfully, they made me move classrooms a couple times, so I had to clean out some stuff. But I never thought about the fact that how it would affect my students' academics. I know that my TAs would always say, you know, Miss T, can I clean your desk? But I never really thought about how that would upset them. And so I think this is a Marzano quote, but when students are surrounded by clutter, they may feel overwhelmed, stressed out, which can negatively affect their mental health and well-being. So when I started thinking about that, I was like, oh my God, like my classroom must have contributed to some of these kids who are already, right, suffering from probably some anxiety issues. Then they come into my class. I thought it was comfortable. I mean, they hung out at lunch and did all that. But there's an element in there that must have been nightmarish. Because we had a thing where when you were a senior Avid kid, you got to pick a tile, and we'd pop the tile, and you got to paint it however you wanted. Well, I didn't repaint them every year. So pretty soon my whole ceiling was covered with all these different things. I mean, from American Idol, which was big back then, to some beautiful art. And, you know, as I have ADD, so I would be sitting there being like, I would imagine I'd be like this. Like, I would be clueless because I would be so entranced, but that was clutter too, you know, visual clutter. So I was horrible about that. I told Steve that was my room. It wasn't really that bad, but close. These quotes, I thought I stopped this, but I thought this was interesting. Just, you know, the visual disorganization, like my classroom, tires the brain, impairs working memory, makes it harder and harder to regain focus. Again, if they're looking at this stuff, there's less room going on in their frontal, like their short-term memory for the stuff that I'm talking about. Visual clutter, less square footage in the brain. I thought that was interesting. It can affect anxiety levels, and the last one, oh, they have difficulty organizing. Well, yeah, because I'm modeling not being organized. And ironically, Avid is about being organized. So I could teach it and do those things, like specifically what I was teaching. But in terms of clutter, I was in bad shape. And so colors, you've mentioned several times that you had muted colors. I should know all this. It affects the autonomous nervous system, hormonal activity, and stimulates emotions. I think we all know that color can affect emotions. I never really thought about the hormonal part. But when you're dealing with, let's say, junior high boys, freshman boys, probably 5th grade, I would assume, the hormonal stuff kicking in. We react physiologically and psychologically, and depending on how the brain is stimulated, a person can render happy, angry, sad, or anxious. I would love now to ask those kids, like, what that ceiling made them feel like. You know, I think it would be interesting now that they're adults. Like, were you anxious? Like, did it make you stress out? Like, maybe I wouldn't really want to know, but The next few slides, I'm gonna just ask you guys, what's your immediate reaction? What?
I don't know, it's a lot.
Is it
There's
meant
so
to
many
be
colors.
a classroom?
It's actually the colors. I'm going for colors.
Oh.
How do the colors make you feel?
Yeah.
Okay.
So with that one,
It's a lot.
it's a lot.
It's a lot, like it feels like a lot.
I mean, ceiling, wall, right? And then if you do look at this and disregard the fact that it's a bedroom, there's a lot of stuff going on, right? I mean, the pillows are all different colors, and it's not a lot of order. Overwhelming?
I don't like it.
You do?
I don't know why I don't like
You
it.
don't like it?
I don't like it, but I feel calmer than the one before.
I feel like I don't like it just as a matter of taste.
Yeah.
I don't know how it
Yeah.
makes me feel.
Yeah, and what is that? Is that a,
It's like Elvis's dream.
but what is that?
It's a rocking chair. Oh, yeah.
Is it wrinkled bed?
Purple, striped.
No, but is it a bed?
Yeah, it's a bed.
Yeah, that's odd.
These look like AI generated images.
Probably are.
Yeah, the red's very vivid, and as you could say, it's an angry room, maybe.
How's the orange make you feel?
Queasy.
What?
Queasy.
Queasy.
Looks like food or
Mustard.
Throw up. I don't understand the art in this picture, it's a totally different subject, but
And it's off-centered. I don't
that
like
would drive me
it's
crazy.
something.
That's another thing. I had a teacher, a credential, in my credential program, the woman was such a, but she was so good. She was so good. And this was back when we had overheads, so I can only say that because Steve's outside. We had overheads back then. And she said, you know, when you're using the overhead, if it's not straight, you're gonna have several students obsessing over the fact that it's not straight, rather than paying attention to what you're talking about. And she also talked about walking back and forth in front of it, and how, for some kids, that is horribly distracting. And it resonated with me so much. And like you were saying, the pictures are off center, right? So that's an irritation too. I would obsess over it. Absolutely obsessed. Or something that's slightly crooked would drive me crazy. I have a certain obsession now with things being misspelled. Like, I understand some people can't spell, that's fine. But when you're gonna put a sign up, you can't spell check that shit? I mean, come on. Like, have somebody you know that can spell, and I've seen people do full-on, like, expensive signs, and they have a misspelled word. Oh, drives me crazy. Because in my head, I'm gonna obsess about that, like for a restaurant, the whole dinner. Like, what? Why didn't somebody fix that, you know? And so a kid is gonna notice that, or several kids, and they're gonna be more worried about that. What?
Unless that was the point of the sign.
Yeah.
Think about it more.
That's
Good
true. That's true.
It's stuck
If
in
they
your
were
mind.
marketing something, yeah. Usually it's like dishes of the day or whatever, what we're serving special.
Gotcha.
And they'll have it. And I've been in a Japanese food restaurant where they spelled vegetables wrong, with the obvious letter being put in. And I get that, language difference, right? But you're in a restaurant and you have the specials and they misspell something so simple. And it's not like, oh, I just forgot the letter. I mean, it's truly misspelled. Well, that drives me crazy. So anyway, it's not anybody's problem. But
The yellows are too bright. That's really bright.
Yeah.
kind of in your face. I mean, I know you probably think of Barney, but other than that,
I like purple, but purple on purple and camouflage is a different story. I wouldn't want, if the furniture were different, I'd be okay with that.
do you get a calming feeling?
If the couch were gray, yes.
Huh.
For
Agreed.
me.
What do you
That's
think?
fine.
You do?
That's-
And that's, obviously, if you're comfortable, and the kids are gonna be comfortable, usually. Oh, and I will say that, that not being there, like, I would need it centered over the.
The
also don't like that one?
I know. It's so bright.
I can't
I don't
stand
like-
that the couch is totally not the same, like, it doesn't match at all.
I mean, it would be fine in a house or an apartment, but for a classroom, I don't like those colors for a classroom.
Oh, yeah, no, right, classroom.
Yeah.
Those are fine for a class.
Yeah, I find that calm.
Like minty ice cream.
Mhm.
I feel like the patterns is what gets me.
So what?
Like the patterns on the
Blankets.
blankets and the pillows, I feel like that's very busy and not like, if it was like just like striped and not have like the 3 different colors that are in it, it'd be better.
Do you feel that it messes up the calmness then?
Yeah, because if it was like a different pattern or something, I feel like it would be very calm, but that makes me feel like it's very busy and I need to move.
I mean, there's things interior decorators do in homes that I don't think should be done in classrooms.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, very different. What color did you react to? This was ideally if we had 40 people and we were talking. Were you surprised by any of your reactions to certain colors? I thought it was interesting that you pick up on things not being aligned and patterns, like anything that distracts.
I think if you had told me ahead of time you're going to show me an all purple room, I would have thought it was uglier. I think aside from the couch, I was fine with the purple, so that's kind of surprising. The purple was okay.
Cool.
The orange room was the one that actually bothered me the most.
Really?
I don't know why.
Yeah.
But like, after you said like the sickness part, I was just like, I could start to feel things. I was like, oh dang it. I was like, kind of, it's like when someone yawns, and you're like, oh dang it, no, I have to yawn.
Yeah. Well, you all commented on one of the first ones. Was it like a green, I think? And you all said, oh, you said, some reason that makes me very, I don't like it. I just don't like it. I can't remember which one it was, but you did that.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's a really bright green.
Yeah, and it had the
That was just
curtains and all that.
That was wrong.
We've talked about that. So this is the color psychology. I think it's interesting. I don't necessarily, in my eyes, somebody doesn't, I don't agree with it, and you probably won't either. Like there can be some that you just don't, you think are okay. Like orange makes them alert, but it can also be, I think there's, like the orange we saw could almost inspire anxiety if there's too much of it or if it's too strong. One person in the Chowchilla class was saying that, you know, he inherited these walls, and so the bottom half he did, it looks like boards, like, you know, like a barn, and it broke it up. So then he could do things on the top that maybe weren't necessarily muted. Purple, you can't read it, but what does it say?
Purple to rest and sense of calmness.
Which you were commenting on, right? You didn't like it, right, the purple?
I was okay with the purple.
Yeah. I think most of them are probably what we can call logical. These are also very bright. What if you muted some of them? The yellow, muted the yellow, that would be very calming. The green, muted. I can't, what does brown say?
Earth-like, natural, secure.
Feeling of fatigue. Thought that was, I think of other things, but anyway, something to think about. It's interesting the color effects on behavior. San Bernardino County does it in juvenile hall.
I read an article about this once that they called it asylum pink. I think that in this, some study came out in the 70s or 80s, and pretty much every school, hospital, and prison got painted the same color. And then later on the signs turned over.
But it's all the same color pink?
Yeah, I think it was a shade of pink. It was
Really?
called it's called asylum pink or something like that.
Which is interesting because when you think of prisons, or if you watch them on those ghost shows, they're all very green or gray.
Baker Miller pink, also known as P618, or drunk tank pink, is a tone of pink which has been observed to temporarily reduce hostile behavior.
It has, I would never think that bright pink would do that. But then you've got that sheriff in Arizona that if inmates, I think it's the inmates that didn't behave, they had to stay outside in tents, and they had to wear pink boxers and pink everything. And I think he thought he was torturing them, I think. But if it reduces behavior, it's kind of a twofold. He never mentioned that I know of, but kind of a twofold approach. If you need to go to the bathroom, you can go. But if we get done, we'll end it. Flexible seating, this is the conversation that we just had. Physical environment, every classroom should be considered comfortable for all heights and sizes. I was always very tall, you probably related to that too, and so my legs never fit. I was also a big girl, I've recently lost all the weight, but I was a big girl, so some seats I knew I couldn't fit into, and there was a lot of anxiety over it. And I was an athlete, so that made it even more embarrassing, right? Because here I am a little bit bigger, and so just, I think, be cognizant of that if you've never been in that position. The other thing is now as an adult, I have quite a few physical limitations. And so everywhere I go, I'm automatically thinking, like, can I get out of that chair? What if I trip? Like, where will I get up? You know, and so if you have a child with, let's say, arthritis or CP or anything like that, it's something to consider, like how easy it is for them to navigate, get up, get out. Can they be, can they get into one of those seats that you were talking about? I think like the college seats.
Yeah.
How easily can they get in and out of that?
Well, in my case, I'm lucky. The desks are college-like. The seats are student seats.
Okay.
They're not attached to the desk.
So you know you get what I'm saying.
Yes, yeah.
It can be very anxiety. I mean, they go into another room for music, and there's nowhere for them. Or the kid that can't get down on the ground. That, I mean, that music teacher may not know, and that kind of stuff. Different types of seating provides choice. You're probably very familiar with what choice does for kids, ownership. That's a big one for me, was it gives them ownership of what they're doing and confidence. I chose to stay here. Like, they have some rockers. They have chairs like this that are rockers. So you've got the kid that, does this anyway or shakes their knee, but if you give them a little bit of a rocker, think about how soothing that is. If you have a rocker at home. I have a beatable rocker and I sit on my patio and just, so I think some of those are worth considering. Is this the video? Choice has been ranked to increases in student effort, past performance, and subsequent learning. That's a Marzano book. Leads to increased engagement, empowerment, inspired students to learn great things. I mean, inspirational, yes, because we just talked about it. Choice gives them, right? Do you find that in your class that way?
Ooh. Yeah.
You want me to? Yeah.
So I used the illusion of choice in situations where I gave them two options.
Two that you want them to do?
Yeah, to be like, here's your options. I gave them two things, but then they get to choose which one they're going to go with. So like, and they felt happy about it because they get to choose something, but it wasn't just like, do this, and I'm like, no.
It wasn't random.
Yeah, it wasn't, yeah. So it's
You
just
knew
like,
dang well
here's
what
some
the two
options,
things were.
yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, you're tricking them into,
Yeah.
but the goal is the same,
Yeah.
right? They own it.
Illusion of choice.
They're a little more comfortable. We're going to talk about something in rigor where they get to choose, like from a menu, and they have the power of choice. But I created the 25 assignments that they get to choose from, right? And they think it's the greatest thing in the world. In your head, you're thinking, yeah, but you're doing everything I want you to do. So, do you want to? Is it too early yet to know? Do you have a couch in yours?
No.
Benefits, obviously being able to go into into groups quickly, collaboration. It enables teaching strategies. I think right now you guys are just trying to stay above water. You're probably not here. Trying to stay above water. You're paddling at least at this point. You're trying to get to the top. So trying way new things is probably not in your repertoire right now. I think you're just probably trying to survive. It reduces extended sitting. I think you mentioned the kids can stand up.
Yeah, they can choose to sit or stand when they're doing like a whole group at our desks.
So I think that's awesome because it's so not traditional. I would tell the kids, look, I know some of you can't sit very long. So if we're doing, like Avid does tutorials, we're in their groups and they're working together they basically teach each other. And it's sitting for a long time. And so I'm like, hey, if you can't sit for very long, feel free to stand up or stand up in the back of the classroom, but you need to stay engaged. You're not going back there to hang on your phone. And I think you probably found it too, that's some choice. Like, I would love that, just being able to get out, which wasn't a thing when I was in school. And it helps students focus. I mean, I think a lot of teachers are afraid to let go of that control. The reality is you're getting more control by it. It's just such an unusual, the image that we think of having them tight and under our control isn't necessarily the same thing. Being forced versus letting them choose. Obviously. Some beanbags, I think you were talking about this, yeah. Exercise balls, I think that's a phenomenal idea. Once you get past them falling over and you have your expectations set out, which we'll talk about in expectations, you know, I think you cut down on that. And exercise balls would be awesome for like high school kids or boys that can't sit still. Stools, working on the floor, cushions or mats, couches, standing desks, which kind of what you're thinking about, but for like, I think of high school kids, they can just pop it up and stand and work. Lower tables, and they have these plastic scoop chairs that look really cool. You're going to see one in the video that we'll watch.
There may not be internet to the computer.
Oh.
So I'll just skip it.
I can, I'll put it on Classroom.
Okay.
But basically it's, they have these desks, regular desks, that have wheels. And so if I said, okay, I want you four to get together in a group right here, they would just wheel their whole situation. It was like the Connected, but they had wheels. You could just zoom over. I'm like, where was that when I taught? Because I had to hear them as they moved the desks, and it was absolutely horrific. And something we're going to talk about when we get into expectations would have been a simple solution. Why it never occurred to me, I don't know. Temperature, performance, and mood. You know, we get, by the end of summer here, I think everyone is a little testy and tired of the 115 degree. You know, if you're not in AC, you're miserable. So you can imagine what a kid's like if they know they have to come to your classroom and it's always hot in there. Or freezing. But I think it's easier for them to get warm than they are to cool off. Like I have a sweater on because I'm always cold now. Just think about how it affects you, it's going to affect them the same way. And we're expecting them to think, participate. You know, if they're cranky, they're not going to want to be near someone or talk to them. I used to teach middle school, I talked about it earlier. The kids would, I had EL, and I had first year EL, which I don't know what it's called now, but that's what it was then. And they would all go play soccer. And when they came in, they're middle school, so deodorant wasn't necessarily a common thing, and the minute they come in, I'd have to open all the windows, because it was awful, like, made me throw up awful. And I had asked the gym teacher, could you have a discussion with these kids and talk about deodorant, because you know, they're still kids in this true sense of things, but their bodies are changing, and thank God. So this is interesting. So basically the idea is stick around 72, and we don't always have control over that. I didn't have control over my thermostat. So, and the years when the air conditioning went out, which was always the first week of school or the last week of school when it was hot, I got in trouble because they expected us to just stay in this classroom. And I'm like, my kids are falling asleep, you know, or sick, because you see their faces get redder and redder. And so I started going to other people's classrooms, and then being a bad person, I posted on my Facebook, air conditioner's been out for a week and a half, but whatever it takes for kids, which was the central motto. And within 5 minutes, my vice principal shows up at the door and she said, take it off. I'm like, take what off? She's like, your post on Facebook? And I was like, oh. And she said, yeah, the superintendent just called me. Well, I don't know how to take it off. I ended up taking it off, of course. And I realized that, first of all, I don't know who was scooping on my Facebook, but you know, it was not a nice thing to say, but also making me teach for 2 weeks without an air conditioner wasn't really fair either. So there's a little battle going on. I don't recommend it, okay? This was an old teacher that was very upset. Acoustics. This might be not, any of you have hearing issues? You do, so you,
Tinnitus.
so you'll understand this. They have trouble understanding speech, especially when the tinnitus is happening. You're so obsessed with what's going on in here that you can't focus on what's going on out there. Behaviors, attention, and concentration. I can tell you that I'm supposed to be wearing hearing aids, and I clearly don't have them in. And if I can't see your face, I'm not going to understand what you're saying. I know you're saying something, I can hear the noise, but I won't necessarily be able to discern it. And think about how many of our students are probably in a similar place. Because even with hearing checks, sometimes they'll pass the hearing test, but there's other issues. The other thing is when you turn your back. I was at a doctoral residency, and one of my classmates was profoundly deaf. And she told the professor, I have hearing aids on, but if you turn your back, I will not be able to hear you. And the professor was like, thank you for telling me that, because I wouldn't have thought to stay facing you all when I'm at the board. So that's something to consider. You guys have computers, you're kind of able to do it a little bit easier, but back in the day we had to write everything on the whiteboard. And so if they were talking, it was a moot point. It impacts many. Reading, never really thought about that. Well, of course I did. If it's loud, you're going to want to hear what everybody's saying around you, or you're going to be completely irritated. I'm sure that was a point in my classroom. Mental math, problem solving, can't focus, right? Multiple steps, and memory recall, kind of obvious. And motivation. If you can't read something, like I have trouble, I'll read a paragraph, not remember what I said, what I read, go back and read it again, still don't remember what I said, read, and I'll revisit 3 or 4 times. If there's a bug going around me, I can't focus. So of course I'm going to be like, screw it, I can't get it done anyway, forget it. And you're going to see kids who do that. Or they'll say, forget it, I'll read it later, and then do something off task, Pokemon or whatever they're doing.
Do you guys have your doors open during the day?
Oh, yeah.
We have to keep ours ajar with a lockdown bolt,
Right.
but it's just a crack.
It's not really open. So, back in the day we leave our doors open, but then we have kids or noises walking by.
Fire truck.
Right, trains, all those kind of things can be distractions. In your case, you ran out of runners.
Yeah.
So you gotta keep the door closed for that. Nowadays, though, it's changed because of all the school shootings, right? So now, like you said, we've got that little thing on the door so that we can quickly lock it in case of a lockdown. Go from there. Do your rooms echo?
I noticed this room echoes, mine doesn't do that. Not with you here.
Putting bodies in a room helps. Do your students talk while you're talking? Do you try to talk over them, or do you wait for them to be quiet?
It depends.
Are you always one-on-one, or do you have a class setting?
No, I mean, like, when I was student teaching, definitely I would try talking, like, if I was doing something, if it got too loud, I would stop and just look at the kid. And then they'd be like, oh, and just look at me and be like, thank you. And then I continue on, but
So now every situation now for you now is one-on-one, always, never groups? Never
I mean, online I can have a group thing going on.
Okay.
And if there's usually just background noise though, and I'll just be like, oh, I'm gonna mute you for a second, I'll just mute them on the call, and everyone else is fine. But,
Yeah.
so it's,
So that's your number one thing you were talking about, was noise in the classroom.
Typically I wait until everyone's quiet and then I'll continue on. But it's more of like centers time where it gets really loud. I don't know how to help
So
them.
if you tried the chants,
Yeah, I have it's too loud in here and then I go shh, shh, shh. And then I always shadow. I'm like, I really like how this group is working. They're using their whisper voices.
right, so that's positive.
that's reinforcement.
I love some of those chants that people do. They're so cute.
So there's some of those that class,
Yes.
yes. Eyes on Me, 1, 2, 3, some of those might work for you.
The doorbell. They really respond to the doorbell bell, so.
That's cool.
It's just, I bought this doorbell off of Amazon, and then I have, like, the presser part, and then
Oh.
it does the doorbell sound.
That's kind of
Very
cool.
efficient.
Even high school kids would respond to that, really. And when I did daycare for the older kids, I would say shave and a haircut, and they would all stop and say 2 bits. And I mean, I had 100 kids, and they would come and line up like so quick if we said shave and a haircut. Something so simple, but they loved it. And these kids were junior, some of them were almost in junior high.
If I-
Fifth grade too. Fifth grade, who's chance working for fifth grade too?
Yeah, I have a quiet command that, well, last year it worked perfectly. The kids really enjoyed doing it. It was kind of a chant. And then this year they were more resistant to it. And these kids have figured out that I'm a little tinny-eared. So there's a lot of muttering they get away with because someone will be muttering and I can't, it could be any of 5 children and they don't rat each other out. And so I can tell if there's a low murmur happening when it should be dead quiet. So sometimes they take advantage of me that way. I'm training them. They're getting better, but there's a quiet command that's supposed to end all conversation. But I'm finding I'm having to negatively reinforce to make them adhere to it. Like it's only been 4 weeks now into a year, but like towards the end of every week, I'm like, I put names on the board, and I'm putting names to reinforce my quiet command, just to stop the murmuring sometimes.
We'll talk about that. Yeah, and a way to get that through that to them. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, when I did class, I also mixed up the classy class or like class of Ruby, so things I just do that. But when that didn't work, my ultimate go-to was mirror this. So I just go mirror this, and everyone has to do this, and I have to follow all my movements.
Oh, that's cool.
And then this is my end command, and they just put their hands together and like, okay, we're good. And then I just
That's
have everyone
cool.
like waiting for the instruction, like go. Or I'd be doing a review and be like, doing all these weird motions that had to do with the review. I'd be like, we added together, we subtracted.
Oh, you're
So
that
it's-
guy. Have you seen the classes that, everything is like that, the whole class? Like,
No.
oh, I'll try to find it, because I'm a big TikTok person, as you will soon find out.
Okay.
And there's certain teachers on TikTok, particularly, that are phenomenal. And this one guy recently, actually yesterday, he was on, one of his students died, and he was 5th grade, I think. And he does amazing stuff, and I love watching him. And he was talking about when you do lose a student and all that. And today, he showed a video of this child, Easton, but he was doing something with them where they come up to the front and they all have a motion they do with him, or they shadow him. I don't know, I couldn't figure it out. But the kids loved it. And I don't know if he was doing it like for a quick brain break or what, but I'll find the names because it comes up on my feed. But there's some amazing videos and some amazing teachers who have 48. There's some very boring ones too, but I think are we on hearing? Oh, outside background noise affects older students, obviously. Fire truck, oh my God, is that my, are people walking by talking, is that my friend? What are they gonna do? Blah, blah, blah. Fights, planning fights. Inside affects the younger students more than older. Can significantly affect students' performance, obviously, right? Steve was mentioning when we were in Chautilla, because they're right on the street. Out here you don't have a lot of action going on, other than cars. But over there you're in the city. And so if an ambulance goes by, or a fire truck, those kids, some of them are like, oh my God, where's it going? Is it going near my house? And then they want to go look to make sure the fire's not, in the direction of their home or whatever. Huge distraction, huge.
I'm guessing there's not a lot of police cars out
No,
Nope.
like none. We always asked for them and they never came out. So, yeah. But I mean, if you think about it, it distracts us. I'm just as nosy when kids go by. I'll be like, why is that kid out of school class? He's not supposed to be out of class, Oh, 41 decibels, not really sure. I know you can get that on your iPhone, but it reduces test scores. I thought that was interesting. And even teachers, was it reduced 5%? They went from 15 to 2% if the acoustics in your classroom are, I don't know how you would describe it.
They found the cure for COVID.
Do what?
They found the cure for COVID.
Right, right, exactly. I thought that was interesting because it must affect us in ways we don't even know. And probably the negativity. If you get tired of hearing it, you get tired of repeating yourself, you get tired of trying to control things, and you feel like it's out of your control. Lighting. So it's interesting, they say if it's too dim, but we were talking about the Christmas lights. That's really cool, and the ambiance is probably phenomenal. But what about that kid that has trouble seeing, like, and I would hope that child would come and say something, but someone would. So how do you address that?
It's kind of like when you go into a class, well, now everybody has essentially fluorescent equivalent lighting at home, but time was you would have harsh fluorescent light like this in a classroom or an office. You go home, you would have your nice incandescent bulbs with a warmer light. You can have nice warm light that still is illuminating enough. So maybe if you mix in some warm light with the fluorescence.
The other thing is fluorescent lights, for somebody who has an autoimmune disorder, fluorescent lights can send them into a flare. And that's not something that they would even realize is happening. Because I'm not supposed to be in the sun, but I'm always in the sun. And I don't even, later that day, I'll be like, why am I hurting? Well, why am I sore? Why do I have a headache? And then I realize, I was in the classroom all day. So I mean, think about the kid who perhaps doesn't even know they have it. Fluorescent's pretty brittle too. So yeah, if you could get something that is soft light. I know a lot of people have their own stand-up lights. That sometimes, I was wondering, like, if the kid did come up to you, you could take one of those lamps and maybe have it in the same, where a child can go sit over there.
Like vicinity.
Or like in your reading area. And then the child has an option to, again, that flexible seating maybe. Any other ideas?
Natural light works if you can get a hold of it.
Is that on there? No, that one. Oh, the other thing is a flickering light.
Oh.
I don't think my entire career that all of my lights worked. And flickering not only is a distraction, do you know what else it can cause?
Seizures.
Seizures. So that always scares me. Please don't have a seizure in my life. But they also never worked. So we sometimes were in dim situations without being intentional. But the natural light, you guys said you all have windows. You have too much light when you were student teaching. But the natural light seems to be, well, we know, like when we get stressed or overwhelmed, sometimes some of us walk outside. Are you guys allowed to do stuff outside? Yeah, well, you and your one kid. You can go outside, you can do whatever, right?
Yeah, basically.
What about you guys?
Yeah, I can do whatever I want. If I wanted to, I could have the whole day outside. I don't think anyone would complain.
See, I think older kids respond to that really well. Hey, we're going to go read this outside. If you want your chair. If you want to sit on the grass, you can sit on the grass. And I did that a lot with reading circles. I know science teachers have done it to walk around the class, around the campus. Math teachers have done it for measuring. There's so many different things you can do to change the brain focus. Hit different parts of the brain so that that one side isn't hit or that one spot isn't hit constantly. I think that's where, as kids, for those of us that were still in, rote schooling, it was repeat, right sentences, right sentences. And at a point, you just become numb. Whereas had we gone outside, even at any point during that day, we would have all been able to reset that part of our brain. And so thinking about, we'll talk about this when we get into the rigor part as well, but change what they're seeing, change what they're doing, so that they're expose in different ways. Sometimes that can just be stand up and do something crazy, you know, or stand up and dance. You've got 30 seconds and then stop. Okay, do it again, stop. You know, it changes, and that's, I think for all of us, that's makes us more attentive. You don't need to do that, we've already talked about it. Steve, you're up.
So one of the things we talked about is if students can get to you, they can control you, right? And that can be humorous or agitation. So if I have a group of fourth graders and one of them does something that's just funny, we're all going to. The question is, how long does it take for you to come back? Okay? Kindergarten kids, you're probably laughing all day long.
Yes, they mainly laugh at me, but.
But if they can get to you, they can control it. So what happens when we encounter a disruption is that we go into that fight or flight reflex mode. Can you have that quickly? So what we want to teach you is how to stay calm. So what can cause a fight flight reflex? I mean, on the extreme end, a kid cusses you out. Okay? Kindergarten, might even bite you, or kick you, or throw a punch. Right? Yeah. In fourth grade, you might just use the old. Yeah, I don't know. That's pretty bold for a fourth grader, but you know. And you're working with special pops. We're not quite sure what kind of issues they are. Why aren't they in a traditional school? There's a lot of reasons, right? Mm-hmm. But some of those reasons are they didn't fit in a traditional school. There's too much stimulus or bullying or whatever. So you don't know what kind of reaction you're going to get. And you're going to get the full brunt of that because you're the person they're talking to in a one-on-one situation. How do we handle that? I asked you earlier today if you go home tired and you're exhausted. Part of the reason that you're going home exhausted is that your fight-flight reflex is kicking on and off all day long. And every time, every time it goes off, it takes about 20 to 30 minutes for your body to reset. So what happens if it's going off all day until 3:30? You've used a ton of energy on stress. What are some side effects of stress, by the way? Physical side effects of stress.
Heart disease.
Okay, heart disease, high blood pressure.
When I'm stressed, I overeat, so that leads to all those things too.
So we grab for comfort food.
Mm-hmm.
Our digestive system can actually shut down while under stress because it's prioritizing different parts of our body.
Long term, it can cause super illnesses, like not just temporary, like permanent illnesses.
Well, ulcers
Um,
and diabetes. We never thought about that, but good part of it's the diet, part of it's the digestive issues. All of this is occurring all the time. All right, what happens, you've heard this before, what happens in the fight-flight reflex mode? What's going on there?
Love the sound.
What happens, you've heard that before, what happens with the fight-flight reflex?
I mainly hear fight flight in terms of if you get close enough to a wild animal, there's a distance at which it will either try to run from you or attack you to protect itself.
And there's a video that we were going to show, but I don't think it'll show up.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
All right. It happens to you too. You're geared the same way. Even though our brains were designed to run from the tiger in the jungle, we didn't stop.
Sorry.
And now we still have that same reaction when disruptions happen, and we have to figure out how to stay calm. So what it really says is that our brain downshifts from the neocortex into the brainstem, and you become reactionary. And I'll give you an example. Have you ever had an argument with a significant person in your life? And 2 hours later you go, and another thing. Because you couldn't remember in the middle of the argument. Yes. But 2 hours later you're starting to think through things. Oh, I'm going to tell him. Or you go to a job interview And then about 30 minutes after you're in driving home, oh, I forgot to say. Why does that happen? Why does that happen? Why does stress make us do that? It causes that brain to shift down into the reptilian or the ancient cortex of your brain. So that's one part of your brain. We know that your respiratory system increases, your digestive system decreases, your blood vessels constrict, your blood pressure goes up, all in a way you either going to have to run, which takes in adrenaline, or fight. Now, if our brain is downshifting, who's in control of our brain then? The 30 students in the classroom. So if they, and even kindergarten, remember kindergarten cop, Arnold Schwarzenegger? Yes. Oh, I've got a headache. Maybe it's a tuba.
It's not a tuba.
And he goes home and he says, I don't know how to control these kids. And his cop friend says, you got to scare them, right? What she said is, you have to have that. So you have to have expectations for these kids. But even kindergarten kids can read body language. They can know when you're upset. They can know when they're getting it under your skin, and they'll exploit it. Fourth graders think it's a game. Hey, if we get a teacher over here, we don't have to do spelling. We don't have to do the multiplication tables. We don't have to do the long division. We can just see the teacher go off and go crazy. Even one-on-one. If I can get you talking about something other than what you want to talk about, we can spend the whole hour. We're talking about soccer, baseball, or jazz music, or if I can piss you off, right? And maybe because I'm coming from home, I'm already mad, and you're another adult authority in my life. Kids don't think it consciously, but subconsciously, they can read you. So how do we fight that? First, we've got to stay calm. So I'm going to make you do some goofy things right now in an effort for you to remain calm. And the object of the game, if you will, is not to reveal your emotions. Neither happy nor upset. So if they do something funny, I'm not going to laugh. And if they do something that pisses me off, I'm not going to react. Okay? So I'm actually having to pair up with Jenny and you can pair up. So I want you guys
Oh my gosh. This is so hard.
Make sure your feet are pointed towards your person. Your hands are relaxed. And the game, if you will, is you can't smile or laugh. And the way to get your face totally relaxed is first we want to relax our body. So put your hands on your laps. Breathe in. Breathe. Well, I haven't even started.
This is my biggest weakness. The kids crack me up all day. I'm totally guilty of that. When they make me laugh.
I am too. If they fart or something, I'm done.
They're so funny.
All right. So we're going to totally just relax. We're going to breathe in and breathe out. Now, to make sure that we have a neutral face, we're going to put the tongue on the roof of our mouth. And we're going to check and unclench the jaw. How many of you grind your teeth at night? Do you ever grind your teeth when you're angry? Oh. Giving it away, right? And later I'm going to talk about where we're going to put our hands and how we stand and how we move. All of that can reveal what we call in cognitive coaching our beamers. Our body is giving off signals of what we're thinking. So we're going to try to mask that with a poker face, you will, or Fred Jones calls it a Queen Victoria look. So in a minute, I'm going to ask you to relax by breathe in, breathe out. I'm going to say check your jaw. You're going to put the tongue on the roof of your mouth. And then you're going to find a focal point in your partner, but not in their eyes. So maybe like if they were a cyclops, you're going to look there. Or you're going to look at their ear. Because if you look in their eyes, it's going to cause you to lose it. All right? So here we go. I want to put your hands in your lap, sitting straight up. I want you to relax. Take a breath in. Take a breath out. Check your jaw. Find your focal point. And don't smile. You guys are all for that.
I didn't laugh.
She's even going red too. All right, let's start that again. And I know that it's so goofy in here, but if we can do it in here where it's goofy, and then do it with our students, and we're giving them not an amused look, it throws them off. because they don't know how you're going to react.
Well, when you're angry, it's a little easier to do it than us being goofy here.
Right? So, all right, let's try that again. So, hands on your lap. We're going to take a relaxing breath in, breathe out, check your jaw, find your focal point.
Can't do that.
You start.
That's like that.
Well, let's go back
I
to this.
changed my whole posture when I have to stay in like a certain like mode, so it's like being straight is actually
Well,
bugging me out.
I know, that makes me just sad.
So there's some sort of, so what we're really saying to the student is, I'm the authority in the room, I have boundaries, that's not gonna fly. I'm not gonna navigate on it, but you know by the way I'm looking at you that whatever it is you're doing needs to stop, okay? And so if we're kicking it, right, what are we saying? So our body language communicates, even kindergartners are saying it. So if I'm kicking it in my chair like this, what does that say?
You don't care.
I don't care. And if I'm hunched over, what does that say?
You're being aggressive.
I'm upset. Right? So we're really trying to find that neutral, I'm not amused, I'm not mad, I'm not going to laugh, whatever it is you're doing needs to stop. And we're saying that without the words. Because remember we talked about earlier, once they start nagging, we're going down a rabbit trail of escalation. Kids don't want to lose face, even kindergarten kids. It's not a help. If I can address, and this is not a silver bullet, this is going to get 60% of the way there, 70% of the way there. Most of the kids want to be good, and all you're doing is giving them a reminder without calling them out and without sending them to the office. Because sending them to the office is real expensive, and we'll talk about that next time. We want to try to handle art stuff in class. Even if they say, after you, Mr. T, I'm not going to do that. We're going to give them that nonchalant look. It doesn't mean we're not going to deal with it, but we're not going to react to it. Then we can say, Larry, come see me at recess. When you talk about that.
Okay, I have a friend, one of my best friends. She's a science teacher, she's not very popular, kids hate her. And they've been known to call her names. Like, I went my whole career without somebody saying something horrible to me, but
Go on, I'm going to sit back here.
Oh, sorry.
she couldn't do it. And they would call her a B. And she'd never get upset. She'd say, that may be, you need to leave. Like, she didn't have the tools to deal with them in class, but I just thought it was funny. She never got riled up. She never got her feelings hurt. She was like, that may be. And I told her it's so funny that, first of all, they even say that to her. But
All right, so here we go. Feet on the floor, hands in your lap, legs straight up. Take a relaxing breath. Breathe in, breathe out. Check your jaw. Find your focal point. All right, that was a lot better. All right, so now on this side of the room, you get to be the bad child.
Okay.
And your job, without saying any words, is to try to make your partner laugh.
We're the bad ones.
You are.
you're the bad influence, so there you go.
All right, so here's the disturbance. Take a breath in, relax.
Oh, we're not going in.
Oh.
Breathe out. Check your jaw. Find your focal point. Usually you do that. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. That was
Now I
a lot
just feel
better.
bad about my material. We shouldn't laugh.
All right, now we're going to switch. Now it's the girl's turn. Okay, so ready? All right, so sitting in our chair, hands in our lap. You see a disturbance. Take a relaxing breath. Breathe in. Breathe out. Check your jaw.
It's cheating. Actually, the rules were you couldn't speak. But you
Right.
didn't say how to sit in the chair.
Well, that's good. All right, check your jaw.
Who?
Find your focal point.
Them?
Yeah, the guys are trying to keep straight face. He looks like he's scared.
Easier when she's trying to be funny. It's like backwards.
He looks up there.
It's weird.
All right.
Namaste. Oh, I can't talk.
Well, that's the video.
I put the videos on your,
Okay.
on your classroom.
My coaching is just the oh really face. It's just like,
Yeah,
All right.
well, the whole eyebrow thing gets me, so.
So we're gonna practice this again next time, but we're also gonna add, as if we're, how to move in on a student, and continue with, a not-amused look, and exploit proximity to manage the classroom. So tomorrow, though, you can use the look, so this is a tool you can use right away. I'm not amused. You can also use proximity. You know that the closer I am to students, the more they're going to be in the red zone. They're not going to be goofing off. Think about your classroom setup. Even if a kid is trying to get you distracted, you can use that look on them, and they're going to get it up.
We're gonna ask you, like, how it works.
Here's some homework that we want you to do, and it will be posted in the classroom.
It's there. So if you're elementary, you're gonna, which all of you are, right?
Yeah.
So you guys will watch the elementary video. I mean, you can watch the high school one, it's kind of funny, but you're gonna watch it and respond with your thoughts, you know, positives, negatives, potential problems. You're gonna read the 2 articles, Stop Classroom Clutter and How Classroom Design Affects Learning. And you're gonna, in a short paragraph, I didn't specify that, but share 5 things that you take away from each article. And I would also encourage you to watch the videos that I posted from tonight. They're not very long.
And we're going to do a thread discussion with both his.
Oh,
Sid
and then there's a
and
thread.
Churchill.
So I've already posted that as well. It should be live now. There's a thread that we will be posting a question after each class. And you and the other class, the Chowchilla folks, the requirement is that you respond, and then you respond to 2 of your peers. The one this week is, well, you'll see it. I can't even tell you what it is because I looked at a bunch of them. And sometimes they'll be a little more personal. This one's not personal. And get it going. Let's see what happens with our peers.
This is, I'll find this on the classroom.
Yeah.
It'll be a classroom.
And in order to get the units, it's 60 hours. They want 15 hours per unit. So we're shooting for 4 units, 60 hours. So it's 20 hours of our sessions together, 10 sessions. It's 20 hours of doing the homework, right? We probably won't get close to, we'll get close to 20 hours, but not, we won't exceed it. And then 20 hours is actually using this in the classroom and drawing data from that. Next time you come, we're going to have some pre-assessment questions for you to see how you're doing, and then we're going to measure that growth when we come back at the end of our 10 sessions and see how you did. So,
And you'll meet Larry next time.
yeah, we'll talk about that. And we're good, you know, the videos, we're good to go, you guys.
Okay, wait, let me make sure I know names. Carly, obviously. Jared? And Emily. Okay. Okay, Ed.
Well, you're Ian in the classroom, aren't you?
Huh?
You're Ian in the
That's
classroom.
me.